The letter was waiting on the mat when I came in from the garden, and I knew the handwriting before I had even set down my basket of runner beans. 40 years. 40 years, and I would have known that slanting, careful hand anywhere in the world. The way she looped her letter, the way she pressed a little too hard on the first word of every line, as though she had to gather her courage each time before she could begin. Ruth, my sister Ruth. I stood in the narrow hall of the cottage with the beans forgotten at my feet, and I turned the envelope over and over in my hands, and I did not open it. Not for a long while. The evening light was coming in gold through the front door I had left ajar, and a blackbird was singing his heart out on the garden wall, and I simply held the letter and listened to my own heart going far too fast. When I finally did open it, sitting down at the kitchen table because my legs did not quite trust me, there were only 4 lines inside. 4 lines in that dear familiar hand. She was coming home. After all these years, she was coming home to the cottage where we were girls together. She would arrive, she wrote, on the last Saturday of the month, if I would have her. If I would have her. I read those 4 lines so many times that evening that I could have closed my eyes and recited them to you like a prayer. But all of that can wait until the morning, because right now, none of it can touch you. There is nothing you need to decide and nowhere you need to be. Right now, there is only your warm bed and the soft dark of your room and the slow, steady rise and fall of your own breathing. So let yourself settle. Let the pillow take the whole weight of your head. Let your shoulders sink down, away from your ears. Let your hands grow heavy and warm and still. I am going to tell you the rest of this story slowly and softly from the beginning. There is nothing for you to do but listen and drift and let yourself be carried gently down toward sleep. Let me begin. My name is Nora, and I am 68 years old, and I have lived nearly my whole life in the same small cottage at the edge of a village, beside a wide, quiet lake the color of pewter in the mornings. The cottage is called Wren Cottage, for the little brown birds that nest every spring in the ivy by the door, and it has belonged to our family for longer than anyone can quite remember. My sister Ruth and I were born here, 2 years and a whole world apart, and we grew up sharing the small bedroom under the eaves, where the rain sounds like someone whispering on the slates. Ruth was the elder. She was the bold one, the one who climbed the highest into the old pear tree, the one who swam out furthest into the cold lake while I stood shivering at the shallow edge, calling her back. I loved her the way a younger sister loves an elder one, which is to say completely, and with a little bit of awe, and with the certainty that she would always, always be there. And then one summer, a long time ago now, we quarreled. I will tell you about the quarrel, because I promised to tell you everything, but I want you to know, before I do, how small it was. That is the strange and tender thing about it. It was so very small. Take a slow breath with me now before we go on. In gently through the nose, and out long and soft, like a sigh at the end of a long, good day. There is no hurry in this story at all. Our mother had been unwell that summer, the summer I was 28 and Ruth was 30. And there came an evening at this very kitchen table when we disagreed about how she should be cared for. I thought she should come and live with one of us. Ruth thought she should stay in her own home with her own things for as long as she possibly could. We were both right, I think now. That is the sorrow of it. We were both only trying to love her. But we were tired, and we were frightened, in the way you are frightened when someone you love is ill, and the words came out sharper than either of us meant them to. Ruth said something about my always needing to be the good one. I said something about her always running away when things grew hard. And then she stood up from this table, and she was quiet for a moment, and she said, very softly, that perhaps it was better if she went. And she went. She took the job she had been offered in a city far to the north, the one she had been unsure about, and within a fortnight she was gone. Our mother, bless her, grew well again that autumn, and lived another 9 good years, and I cared for her here, and Ruth wrote to her faithfully long, warm letters every single week. But Ruth and I, we let the silence grow. It was not dramatic. That is what I want you to understand. There was no great slammed door, no final terrible words. There was only a small hurt on both sides that neither of us knew quite how to reach across. A letter not written, a telephone call not made. And then a year had passed, and then 5, and then somehow, impossibly, a whole life. Let your eyes close now, if they have not already. There is nothing more you need to see tonight. Only my voice, and the quiet, and the slow unspooling of the story. I thought about her every single day. I want you to know that too. Every morning when I made the tea, I thought of Ruth, who liked it far stronger than I did, black as a bog, she used to say. Every spring when the wrens came back to the ivy, I thought of how she had been the one to name them, standing on a chair to peer into the nest when she was 7 years old. She was woven through this cottage like a thread through cloth. I could not have pulled her out if I had tried, and I never once tried. And now she was coming home. The days before her arrival were the strangest, softest days I have known in a long, long time. I want to tell you about them, gently, because they are the warm middle of this story, and I think they will be good to drift upon. I decided the very next morning that I would make the cottage ready for her. Not grand. Ruth never cared for grand, but warm. I wanted her to walk in through that low front door and feel, in her body before her mind could even catch up, that she was home. So I began with the little bedroom under the eaves, our old room. I had used it for storing things over the years, the way you do, and I spent a whole quiet afternoon carrying boxes down the narrow stair and airing the room out, throwing the window wide so the smell of the lake and the cut grass could come drifting in. Breathe that in with me, if you like. The green smell of a summer evening coming through an open window. The coolness of clean air on a room that has been shut up too long. I found things, of course, as you always do. I found the shell she gave me the day we walked all the way to the sea and back, footsore and sunburnt and gloriously happy. A small pink shell she had pressed into my palm and told me to keep forever. I had kept it. It was in a tin at the bottom of a box, wrapped in a scrap of blue ribbon, and when I unwrapped it, my hands were not quite steady. I put it on the windowsill of our old room where she would see it. I made up the bed with the good linen, the linen that had been our mother's, worn soft as a moth's wing with 100 washings. I put a jug of sweet peas on the little table because sweet peas were always her favorite, and their scent filled the small room like something you could almost hold. And every evening, when the light began to go, I would sit at the kitchen table and I would write a little more of a letter I never quite finished and never sent, because I knew she would be here before any letter could reach her. It did not matter. The writing of it was the thing, pouring out at last onto the paper all the small, ordinary news of 40 years. Here is what the garden did. Here is the winter the lake froze right across, and the children skated on it. Here is how I missed you, every day, in 100 small ways I never found the words for. Let us pause here a moment, you and I, and simply breathe. In slow and soft, filling your chest gently, and out, slower still, letting your whole body grow heavier against the bed. Feel how the mattress holds you up completely, so that you do not have to hold yourself at all. There is nothing to carry now, nothing to fix, only the next quiet word and the next. The days went by, one soft golden day after another, and I filled them with small kind tasks. I baked. I baked the seed cake our grandmother used to make, from the recipe still tucked in the back of the old cookery book in her own faded pencil, because I knew the smell of it would carry Ruth back 60 years the moment she stepped inside. I picked the last of the roses and put them in every room. I even, on the Friday, walked down to the water and sat on the old wooden jetty where we used to dangle our feet as girls, and I told the lake, quietly, that she was coming home. The lake did not answer. but the light lay on it, gold and pink and endless, and I felt, somehow, that it already knew. That Friday night I hardly slept, not from worry exactly, from a kind of trembling, brimming feeling, the way a child cannot sleep on the night before something wonderful. I lay in my bed and listened to the wrens rustling in the ivy, and I let myself imagine, over and over, the small blue car coming up the lane, and the door opening, and my sister's face. Let yourself grow heavier now, as I did not manage to that night. Let the drowsiness come and settle over you like a warm quilt. You have nowhere to be tomorrow. You can let go of every single thing. Saturday came bright and still. I was up with the first light, though there was truly nothing left to do. The cottage gleamed. The kettle was filled. The seed cake sat under its glass dome on the dresser, and the sweet peas breathed their scent through the little room upstairs. I put on my good blue cardigan, the soft one, and I made myself sit down at the kitchen table with a cup of tea I was far too nervous to drink. And I waited. I heard the car before I saw it. That low country lane carries sound a long way, and I heard the engine slow and the tires on the gravel, and my heart climbed right up into my throat and stayed there. I went out to the door. I could not help it. I stood in the doorway with my hand pressed flat against the old warm wood, and I watched a small blue car pull up beside the garden gate, and I watched the door open. And there she was. Older, of course, as I was older. Her dark hair gone to soft silver, her tall, bold figure a little bent now, a little slower. But it was Ruth. It was unmistakably, entirely my Ruth, my sister, coming up the garden path between the roses, and she stopped a few feet from me, and for a long moment neither of us said a single word. Breathe softly here. Stay with me in this gentle place. We are almost at the warmest part of all, and I want you to be good and drowsy for it. It was Ruth who spoke first. Of course it was. She was always the bold one. She looked at me, and her eyes were bright with tears. She was not bothering to hide, and she said, "Hello, Nora. I'm sorry it took me so long to find my way back. And every wall I might have built in 40 years simply fell away, all at once, and was gone. I did not say anything clever. I did not say anything at all. I just stepped forward and put my arms around my sister, and she put her arms around me, and we stood there in the garden between the roses, two old women holding on to one another as if we were girls again, as if no time had passed at all. Because here is the thing I understood in that moment, with her shoulder warm and real beneath my cheek. The 40 years had not taken her from me. Not truly. They had only been a long, long breath held between two words of the same sentence. And now, at last, we could breathe out. We went inside together. She stopped in the kitchen doorway and closed her eyes and breathed in, and she said, "Grandmother's seed cake," in a voice gone thick, and I had to turn away and busy myself with the kettle so she would not see my own face. We sat at the same table where 40 years ago we had said the words that sent her away. And this time we said different words. We talked. Oh, how we talked. We talked until the light went gold, and then blue, and then dark, and the lamp made a small, warm island of the kitchen, and still we talked. We did not spend very long on the quarrel. There was surprisingly little to say about it in the end. Two frightened young women who loved their mother and loved each other and could not, for one bad evening, manage both at once. We forgave it in about a sentence, the way you forgive something that was never really the other person's fault, nor your own, but only the fault of being human and tired and afraid. The rest of the evening we spent giving each other back the years. She told me about the city and the work she had loved and the friends she had made and the small flat with the geraniums on the sill. I told her about the cottage and the frozen winter and our mother's last good years, which she wept to hear about softly, and which I had always longed to tell her. Let your breath grow slower now, as the evening in the story grows late. In, gentle and deep, and out, long and slow, letting the day dissolve behind you like sugar stirred into warm tea. She went up at last to our old room under the eaves. I heard her stop on the threshold. I heard the small sound she made when she saw the sweet peas and the good soft linen and the little pink shell sitting on the windowsill where she could not miss it. She came back down just for a moment in her nightgown, and she found me on the stairs, and she took my hand exactly the way she used to when we were small and the thunder frightened me. She did not say anything. She only squeezed it once, and I squeezed back, and that was everything. That was 40 years, mended in the press of a hand on a dark staircase. Then she went up to bed, in the room where we were girls, and I stood a while longer in the quiet cottage, listening to the wrens settle in the ivy, and I thought my heart might simply overflow with the fullness of it. That is the whole of it. That is the story of the letter that came in from the garden, and the sister who came home after 40 years, and how a hurt so small and so old could still be healed so completely and so gently by nothing more than an open door and an unlocked heart. She stayed in the end. I will tell you that much, so you can drift off knowing. She never really left again. The city had given her all it had to give, and the cottage was home, and I had a spare room and a whole lifetime of tea to drink with her. The wrens did not mind. There has been room in this old house for everyone who was ever loved here, and there always will be. So let it all go now, gently. The waiting, the trembling, the long years of silence. Let it dissolve and drift away and leave you lighter. You have nothing to mend tonight. No letter to write, no path to walk down, no arms to open. There is only the warmth of your bed, and the soft dark all around you, and the slow, patient tide of your own breathing, carrying you out and out into sleep. Breathe in slow and easy, and out slower still. Let the next breath be even softer than the last, and the one after that softer still. You are safe. You are warm. You are exactly where you are meant to be. Rest now. Sleep now. I will keep the kettle warm and the lamp lit in the window, and two old sisters will be sleeping soundly under the same roof at last, while the wrens dream in the ivy and the lake lies quiet in the dark. Good night,